So, what really holds a nation as massive and diverse as China together? Is it just culture or economics? Well, the source material for this explainer points to something much more concrete, a powerful legal blueprint, one that's been specifically designed for unity. Let's dig in and see how it all works.
Yeah, it's a huge question, right? And while things like culture and the economy are definitely part of the picture, the source material we're looking at today says the real anchor for China's unity isn't so much about shared values, but about shared laws.
Exactly. The whole idea here is that China's unity isn't just some accident of history. It's the direct result of a very deliberate top-down legal framework that's been engineered to keep the entire state together.
So, where do you even start with a legal framework like that? Well, you start right at the top with the country's constitution. You can think of it as the bedrock for this entire structure. And when you look at the language in the Chinese constitution, there's no ambiguity. It doesn't just suggest unity, it legally mandates it. This isn't some friendly guideline. It's an ironclad rule that makes the state, by law, completely indivisible.
Okay, so the Constitution lays down the law. The country can't be broken apart. But how do you actually enforce that rule across such a gigantic country? Well, the answer is all about the structure of power itself, and, more importantly, where that power flows from.
And this right here is the key mechanism our source points to. The central government has the final say, the ultimate authority to create laws for the whole country. This makes sure that every single province, no matter how far away it is playing by the same national rulebook. It forges this really tight legal bond right back to the center.
There's actually a political term for this. It's called a unitary system. What it means is that, unlike in some other large countries, provinces in China don't have their own independent power. Any authority they do have is basically on loan. It's delegated to them by the central government. So this sets up a really clear chain of command, you know? It's a simple three-step flow. First, the Constitution sets that unbreakable rule of unity. Then, the central government in Beijing writes the laws for the whole nation. And finally, all the provinces are legally required to follow them. It's a straight line of authority, from the top all the way down. Now, to give you some perspective, let's just quickly compare this to a federal system, like you see in the United States. In that system, power is shared between the national government and the states, and states can have a lot of their own independent laws. The goal is kind of this balance between regional differences and national unity. But in China's unitary system, the main goal is national uniformity, and you get there by keeping power and lawmaking centralized. All right, so beyond the big picture structure, there are also some very specific legal tools. Think of them as a hard defense against any direct threats to that national unity we've been talking about. And we're not talking about abstract ideas here. These are explicit laws with real teeth. The legal system is built to proactively shut down any movement or any action that could even hint at breaking the country apart. The legal toolkit for this has two main parts. On one hand, you have anti-secession laws. These make it flat out illegal to even try and separate a piece of territory from the rest of the country. Then you have broader national security laws, which are designed to stop anything that could weaken the state, whether that's an internal movement or what's seen as influence from the outside. Now, you might be thinking, what about places like Hong Kong and Macau? Well, the source explains this through the one country, two systems principle. And while these regions do have a lot of their own autonomy, the crucial point is that it all exists within the one country framework. They are still, at the end of the day, under the authority of the national constitution and its core principle of indivisible unity. Okay, so we've looked at the Constitution, the centralized system, and those specific hardline laws. But why? What's the intended outcome of this whole complex legal machine? Why does all of this matter? According to the source, this whole framework is designed to produce some very specific results. It's meant to create stability by keeping internal conflicts to a minimum. It ensures there's a clear national direction coming from one single authority, which is seen as absolutely essential for things like rapid economic growth. And of course, on the world stage, it projects a powerful, united image. So if we tie it all together, what we're really seeing is a multi-layered legal strategy. You've got the foundational rule in the Constitution, the centralized unitary system putting it into practice, and the specific security laws defending it. Every single piece is working toward the exact same goal, keeping the nation whole, stable, and powerful. So what this shows us is a model where law isn't just about crime and punishment.
It's a fundamental tool for state building and control. And that leaves us with a pretty big question, doesn't it? What really is the relationship between a country's laws, its unity, and its power? And what are the trade-offs of a system that's been so deliberately built for unbreakable cohesion?